Good morning, business owners and fellow entrepreneurs. It's Chris Whelan here from the Center of Business Excellence, Building Better Businesses. I wanted to talk to you today about something I raised a couple of weeks ago, the issue of knowing your numbers, the issue of, in this case, profit break-even, and perhaps the most important number that you need to know. Now, the other numbers that I'll talk about from time to time, but I promised you a couple of weeks ago that I'd give you the detail behind this, and I want to, excuse me, talk about that today. This issue of profit break-even, or the break-even number in your business. Why do I want to talk about it? Well, quite simply because too many business owners that I've seen over the last several years just don't know their numbers. They don't know their numbers, right? And if you don't know your numbers, you cannot manage effectively. It's a simple reality. You've got to know your numbers so you can manage them, so you can test, so you can do all the good things. If you don't, you can't. The question a lot of people have come to me with this, but where do we start? What's the most important thing to do? And I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about a thing called profit break-even. So not just break-even, but the break-even you need to achieve the profit that you want at the end of the year, end of the time, end of the month, whatever it might be. Now, why is that important? Well, it's absolutely essential, because if you do know it, you can manage your business effectively. You can adjust. You can be forward-looking, not just looking in the rearview mirror when your accountant says, well, you did or you didn't make the profit. You can actually know, because you looking ahead, you can know exactly what you need to be doing. That means you can detect the trends that are coming in your business. You can see when things are changing. You can adjust. You can pivot, right? So very, very important. Your profit break even really says that you're starting with the end in mind. So let's assume that you want to make whatever. Let's call it $100,000 of profit. Add that into your break even, right? So you know what your break even is. You know you've got to make 50,000 to break even, plus 100,000 to give you 150,000. So you know immediately up front what you've got to do. What that does is says over a 12-month period, you know exactly what your monthly revenue needs to be to get that profit break even at the end of the year. That means you know what your revenue needs to be, you know what your marketing campaigns need to be to achieve it. You can check January, February, March, etc. Are you on track or are you not on track? You know what your cost of goods needs to be to make sure that you adjust it. So you're not coming after the fact thinking, wow, what happened? You're looking every single month, looking at, because you started with the end in mind, your end of the year profit break even. You've then gone back and you've broken it down by month. So you know what your revenue needs to be, what your COGS needs to be, what your costs need to be, so you can check your net profit every month. You can see the cumulative effect, right? That absolutely allows you then to, as I say, to plan proactively, and most importantly, to test and measure as you're going along. Three things I want to talk about, or three other areas, right? Firstly, people talk about knowledge being power. In this case, it's absolutely true. When you know what your profit break even is, when you've sat down at the beginning of the year and you've said, look, this is what I want to achieve. I know what my break even is, and this is what I want to achieve. You can then have that knowledge, and knowledge in this case absolutely is power. It gives you an early warning system, right? Because as I say, when you're tracking that monthly, you know exactly where you are, you know exactly what's gone right, what's gone wrong. You can reflect each month, you can adjust. So you get an early warning system out of it, because knowledge is power. And you can build then the right structures in place, not to wait to August, September, October. Wow, I'm not going to make it. You can build the right structures in place and your business is much stronger. So that's the first point. Knowledge is power. The second point, and it's the converse of that, is that ignorance, excuse me, ignorance is not bliss. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't need to know. It's just not true. You do need to know, because the fear of the unknown leads to uncertainty, leads to anxiety. The what if I'm not quite on track? What if I'm not quite there? What if the campaigns I'm running aren't working? Now, when you have started with the end in mind, when you started with your profit break even, you can absolutely see exactly where you are. And so you know as you're going along. So don't let anyone, don't fool yourself into thinking that ignorance is bliss, because it's not. So knowledge is power, ignorance is not bliss. And then the third thing, as I say, is starting with the end in mind. It's the old Stephen Covey thing, right? When you do that, it allows you to set the proper course. You know where you want to get to, right? It's not just that you want to make profit. We all want to make profit. That's obvious. But you've sat down and you've been quite specific about the amount of profit you want to make, when you break even in the year, when you break even in the day, the week, the month, what you've got to do to get there, right? So you started with the end in mind. It informs everything, because you can then work backwards from that. As I've said already, you can set your campaigns. You can know when you're employing staff. And I'll tell you a little quick story about that in a moment. It pays You also, sorry, you know that you're getting paid what you've actually set out to achieve. You're not just breaking even and then wondering, how do I pay myself? And that's pretty vital as well, because a lot of businesses take drawings, and nothing wrong with that. But are they then running a business, or they're running a job, right? When you setting up your business, you want it to be able to run without you, run by itself. And so you want to make sure, hang on, I want to take this amount of profit out of it. These are all my costs. Getting that right, it becomes pretty vital, because then you're actually paying yourself your proper salary, as you would in any, if you had an employee, and you're paying yourself, you're calculating your profit and you're working towards it. The issue of employing staff is is an interesting one. Working with the plumber, and he sat down and did his profit break even, and realized that in order to do that, he needed, it actually informed his employment practices over the following 12 months, because he knew he needed to have a certain number of hours that he could sell to make the profit that he wanted to make, right? He's the owner of the business, setting the tone, setting the target, setting the goals, and then said, right, in order to do that, he needed to grow his team. What that meant is that he and I sat down, said, right, we're going to firstly get our marketing campaigns right, because we're not going to go employ too far ahead of the curve. We're going to get our marketing campaigns right. We're going to drive the demand, absolutely vital. So the demand for the business goes up. That allowed us to plan when we were going to bring people in, and allowed us also to say which types of skills do we want at what part of the year and what part of the next, in this case, 36 months. So by starting with that end in mind, by him being very clear what he wanted to take out of the business in terms of profit by when, so the what by when, he could then sit down and say, right, this is what he needs to do to get that in terms of the marketing campaigns, in terms of the business development, in terms of new client acquisition. In order to meet that demand, once it goes up, these are the skills you need. Therefore, these are the types of people. So that everything started with that profit break even right up front. And of course, there's lots of ways to do it, but starting with that and then working backwards gave him a very powerful business. So let's just wrap that up for a second. When you know your break even, absolutely vital, because otherwise you don't know when you're going to make money. Add into that your profit, so you know exactly what you want to take out of the business. That allows you to manage, to adjust, and do things proactively. That's point number one. It allows you to set the right campaigns. We've touched on that a few times already. It allows you to plan appropriately and plan effectively. And that's absolutely essential, particularly in the environment that we're in right now, with a lot of turmoil, a lot of change. It's a lot of things that people might say are external, but we can't control those external things. What we can do is control what we do. And of course, it allows us exactly that, to be in control. If this is of interest to you, if you want to know more about profit break-even, how to calculate it, right, the best way to do that, if you want to know more about how to set that end goal and then work backwards from there, if you want to make sure that you're in control of your business, not your business in control of you, give me a shout. Drop some time in my calendar, and let's get together. We have a quick chat. We can either figure out whether you're really on top of it or if you need help. We're very keen to do that. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week. All the best. Cheers. Bye-bye.